G'day, welcome to our veggie patch. This is an area that we are calling a market garden. Perhaps a little bit pretentious, but you know, it's a work in progress. We've got to work towards something, right? We did start off with some barren land that you can see down the bottom there. I'll take you for a look over there in a second. And we've ended up turning it within about a year or so into an area that we've got plenty of pumpkins growing, zucchinis, quite a few melons, a bit of corn and a few other bits and pieces, as well as quite a bit of garlic that we got off there just before the summertime as well. So if you're interested in starting a garden, or you are starting a garden, or you just wanting to see a bloke that wants to try and pretend he's got some sort of an idea of what he has been doing and see the progress that I have had and where we're up to, then yeah, stick around, we'll take you for a walk. So this here's the bottom portion of where the veggie bed's going to go down to. Down the bottom you might be able to see where the end of our slashing line is. That's about in line with the bottom of the dam bank. So we will eventually extend it down there probably the next, 12 or 18 months. For now, we are planning on putting garlic in up to the end of this little grassy patch. I had a tarp over that for a couple of months. Most of it's died off, although I'm going to pretty well undo all of that work anyway when I put the tiller through and form our rows. So that brings us up to this next section up here, which is just 6 rows we've put in with the tiller probably about 6 months ago. We've got 4 of them filled up so far, seeing as though we only had enough irrigation pipe work and stuff for the 4 rows. 3 of those got popcorn in, and then the 4th one has got some bok choy. Bok choy didn't do too well, seeing as though we are in summertime and it's all just bolted. But yeah, that popcorn's not looking too bad. Obviously a lot of weed pressure in there. We didn't tarp any of this stuff. Just sort of wanted to get something going, and figured that once the corn's up, we'll be able to put some mulch down anyway, which obviously brings us up to these bales of straw that we've got here. This here's where it starts getting a little bit more interesting. We've got this tarp down here, obviously. This here was our garlic rows for the last season. We had 2 rows of garlic in. The 3rd row, we didn't really have anything in, but I'll figure seeing as the tarp stretches 3 rows, may as well do the 3. We're gonna be putting some carrots in here in the next, probably in the next couple of weeks. Just wait until this really hot weather dies off. We've got about a week straight of 45-degree-ish weather. For those that aren't familiar with the tarping, this is a process called occultation. It's quite similar to solarisation. Essentially what you're doing is trying to sterilise all the weeds that are in there without the use of pesticides. Basically, what I've got under this tarp is I've got the beds which have been formed, and then I've got some irrigation lines, and then I've got some straw over the top of that, just for some mulch. I've wet those beds probably about once a week for the first couple of weeks, and it's been about a month or so far. And essentially what I'm trying to do is germinate as many weed seeds as I can, give them the ideal conditions for growing or for starting. And then once they get started, they can't get any sunlight, hence the tarp, and then those weed seeds will die off and turn into microbial food for the soil. Well, that brings us to our summer veg for the year. This has by far been the best sort of garden that we've had so far, right at the end of our first year. We have done pretty well with the garlic through winter last year. I think we pretty much had a 100% success rate in terms of germination and getting something out of it. But yeah, definitely in terms of the food that we put on the table, we've been pretty consistent with getting something off of this bed pretty much every day since about the start of the year, when we started picking the zucchinis and things like that. As you can see, it's mostly just zucchinis and squashes and pumpkins, and we've got a few watermelons growing over the side there as well as these couple of bits of corn. The corn haven't done too well. We did use old seed for it, and also we didn't have irrigation for the critical period of germination and stuff like that. So we probably did end up germinating a few more corn seeds than what are here, and then they've all died off because they didn't get water. In saying that, I think we've done pretty well. We've already picked a few corn, and they're not too bad. They've done pretty poorly in terms of pollination, but I think that's to be expected, seeing as though we've had quite a windy year and seeing as though I've got hardly any plants in. So basically, the reason why I'm wanting to set up this little market garden series or mini series inside the channel is just to sort of have a bit of a walk through, and firstly document for us, but then also walk through for anyone else that might find it interesting or wanting to start up something similar. The process that we've taken to get our barren landscape down the bottom there, full of that rock hard clay, through the stages and up to something like this, which you can grow veggies in some pretty ordinary soil. So we'll go through the breaking ground and ripping and the tilling and all of that sort of thing to actually get the beds formed in the first place, and then going through the compost and mulching and stuff like that. And the main thing that I'm sort of excited to be presenting is a bit of a deep dive into the irrigation that we've chosen. We had quite a hard time organising the irrigation, selecting the irrigation. There's a lot of different things to look through, and a lot of different irrigation types to use. And then within those types, there's subcategories of irrigation and different drip lines and emitters and all sorts of different things. So hopefully I can maybe make that a little bit easier to understand if there's anyone else in the same position that's really sort of struggling to get your head around it. We did end up going with drip tape, and we had to get the drip tape from WA, and the fittings we're using for the drip tape we actually get from Queensland. So that sort of paints a little bit of a picture of how difficult it is to sort of source this stuff. hopefully you can sort of stick around and join us for that. If you're interested, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.